Hi, it's me again. So I told Brent that I would respond in a video because I'm in the middle of trying to figure out what to do with all this stuff. This is today's pickings. I'm trying to get them snapped and done away with. But he had sent me a video, and it says, "Who buys this shite?" MSM starts the story off by saying that the seasonal bug basically disappeared during the pandemic, and we are expecting to have a terrible bug season this year, so get your thing and your booster. Yeah. Says, I did watch your last two videos, and I was just so depressed after watching them I couldn't leave a productive comment. I'm in the same boat as you. My relatives think I'm nuts too. So do my neighbors. It's a lonely place to be, and I feel like my house is burning down in front of me, but the relatives just don't see it. My local grocery store just installed locking gates to get into the store. I'm sure once facial recognition is installed, these locking gates will not open for me. Gives me goosebumps just to, yeah. I said, oh my, it's incredible where we are. Yesterday was a bad day for me too. One of those, cat, get off my counter. One of those, where's that comet days. It is very much like watching everyone fight over the last popsicle while the freaking house is on fire. On those days, I try to stay away from the more hysterical voices. There's definitely a lot to scream about, and it's overwhelming if you don't get away from it. That's usually when I go to the more woo-woo stuff, the comparative religion, esoteric, occult stuff. Remind myself that none of this is new, which does sometimes make me even more angry because the warnings have been there for actually centuries, but they were up against the same thing we still are. That's part of why I like Whitehead so much, because he has led me to some of those voices. And he also focuses on the momentum of those standing up. Are you seeing that the, I can't say his name, but the must go hashtag is breaking Twitter? It's really quite exciting. DW Truth Warrior is his Twitter handle, I think. He's got a website, and DW Truth Warrior is most of his handles on everything. Have you seen any of his Cult of the Medic series showing just how far back this goes? I only suggest these things because for me, they've been the brighter spots in all of this mess. You can't keep focusing on all the evil, which has been there all along, or it will drag you into the abyss with it, which is what they want. I've made up my mind that come what may, I can't not stand against this. I might lose my head, but living in the nightmare they want to create is worse than death. It helps to know that I'm not alone in that, but even if I were, I just won't go along with something that my bones, my blood, and my soul is screaming against, even if I do have to starve. I hate that we're all so far apart physically, but, call me crazy, I do believe we are anchor points, so to speak, in the energy field for change to happen. That heart field effect, it is spreading, although it started ever so slowly. After you all up there stood up and honked until the world took notice, it's taken off like wildfire across the planet. Across the planet! So yeah, they, and I capitalized it to set it aside, but is there a way to make it little teeny tiny? I don't know how to do all that. Are going to try like hell to grasp the threads of what control they have left, but that's slipping away from them too. So yeah, they will try to make things as absolutely miserable as they can, and since they own everything, yes, it's going to be really uncomfortable, but I know there are way more of us, and then I left off because I had to get to this stuff. I sent you, and everybody else should go check out DW Truth Warrior. He's on Rockfin. He's on Rumble. Like I said, he's got a website that directs you to all the places that he's at. But today he's interviewing, or he's posting the interview that he did with the guy that started that hashtag that so-and-so must go, who's an Albertan. And by the way, you and Noel are in Alberta. I know, neither one of you really have trust in anybody else. I get that, but you're not very far apart. And there are so many more of you. And I'm trying to, because I know when you look at this stuff day in and day out and you see what they're doing and how long they've been doing and just how much we're up against, it makes you feel so obsolete, hopeless. Get off my counter. this kitten showed up a couple weeks ago. She'd come screaming across the road. Her eyes were stuck shut, and, well, she's part of the family now. But she's not afraid of anything, and she's got to get into everything. And actually, the distraction is good. But anyway, there are so many more of us that are, I mean, the international stuff is not gaining the attention that it should. That's why, I keep saying Telegram has been a godsend for me, because so many people are sharing all this stuff that it's wild what's happening. And people have had enough. And this isn't, like they're trying to show up where you guys are, that it's all radicals and, they're extremists. Maybe are, considering where they're standing. I think they're the extremists, but, they are trying to say that they're the majority. No, they're not. The majority of people want to live their lives and be left alone. It's not that, difficult to just get along. And before all this pot stirring started going on with, the media, we didn't have these issues. We weren't so divided and, get back to my beans here, and just hateful, angry all the time and looking for a fight. And that's what's brought us here, is the chaos. And I've said this before. You see what's going on in Taiwan and Mexico, and I mean, there's been a lot of massive movement in the last week or so, and Taiwan's been hit how many times? I still say the crazier that we get, the crazier that the earth gets, and it becomes a feedback loop. So we all need to chill the fuck out. I was at the beginning, before I press play or record, I was started on Show Me Baby's new video. He's live from the road. I don't know where he's going. And he's giving his assessment of the situation. Now, I have said, I've tried to share him with those that didn't come to me from him. And I know there's a lot of cussing and drinking, and, he sounds like, as he says, he's a hillbilly. But he's educated, whether he sounds like it or not. He's been involved in this fight, as he said, for more than 15 years. He's explaining to you, who he is, what he's done, and, what he knows. The things that he's seen with his own eyes, because he was crawling through tunnels and such, and it does, part of my optimism comes because there's guys like him that have been there. And as he says, all of these so-called, as it's trending now, the obsolete, they don't do anything for themselves. So they've got the carpenters and, the mechanics and the plumbers and all, and that's who he's talking about. That's who they are. And they've been involved with these people. You've got Dr. Rima Leibau, however you say her name, who one of those obsoletists came to her because she was a natural, drug-free doctor that basically told her, invited her in and told her what was going on. And she went to her husband, who was a general, and said, we've got to close practice. And they went on this crusade, basically, of trying to let people know that this is happening. If you listen to that video on my playlist, she sounds absolutely batty. But if you look up, she's been scrubbed. I haven't checked Rumble for her or not, but there used to be all kinds of videos on YouTube of her sitting in front of the UN and everybody else in these council meetings telling them what was going on with Codex Alimentarius, which is, what Catherine Austin Fitts talks about as the Great Poisoning. It is. It's huge. It's massive. But when you see what they've done and what they've been responsible for, you can't not stand against it. So, if rockets rain down or who knows what's about to happen, because, again, they are on full display. Their crimes are all being exposed. And people like David, who have been exposing, that these groups have been there for actually thousands of years. Some of them haven't even changed their name. So you know, I understand why the majority of people won't even look at this, because it is really dark. But it's because we've refused to look at it that it's been allowed to gain the foothold that it has, and now we are up against the wall. Only, you know, I think as I keep saying, they have miscalculated. First of all, they poisoned all of their followers. So, we'll see what happens there. You know, our loved ones that just did what they thought was right, what they were told was right, instead of questioning. And that's, you know, I have never, I guess I was made differently. I was born that way. I have never taken anybody at their word for telling me anything, regardless of who they are and how much I love them or whatever. I want to go find the information for myself and understand it for myself. Especially when I see things like, you know, my 6-month-old with 104.3 degree fever screaming his head off after one of those things. That right there tells you something's really wrong. And as I said, even after that, I still took their word for it that it was just the one part of that concoction until the outbreak of that particular part started. And my husband's friend says, you need to look a little deeper. So I did, and what I found was absolutely horrific. And you guys know, you've been there. And, you know, I understand why a lot of the ones given the thing in their offices with the white coats don't want to look, because they've been pushing this stuff. And besides that, you know, when you look at their training and what's involved in, you know, getting that position, they've been rather, well, can I say the word, washed? And that's what makes me so angry. Last night I did a video at 1 o'clock in the morning because I couldn't sleep. I uploaded that video late, and when I saw that they edited out, I mean, I guess I should be glad they didn't put the whole thing down. Again, I've had 3 videos removed. I've got 2 strikes one morning. And every one of them was showing you, well, the one was showing the 10 tenets of that code. They can't have you knowing that, can they? And the fact that, you know, hundreds of experimentations have been done without us knowing. But, you know, that's where we are. How can anybody, I mean, they literally got up, the one guy, Billy, you know, the saxophone player, had gotten up and apologized to the American people for that. So they admit they've done it. They're still doing it. But anyway, the next couple of weeks, with all the optics that's going on, it's going to get a little hairy. So, you know, hang in there. And again, to live in the world that they want to create, no. There are some fates worse than death. So that's what I hold on to. But again, I turn off the hysteria because I can't. I've got anxiety issues anyway, and it is very anxious, you know, to see just how much we're dealing with. But you know, in the end, we know they don't win. It's just going to be really uncomfortable until, you know, we get through this. But we will, one way or another. Know that. Know that. Don't just know it. They don't win. I'm dropping my beans on the floor. All right, so that's my thing. Get away from the negative crap, because that's dragging you down and making you hopeless. There is hope. There is always hope. If you've got a breath left in your body, there is always hope. Even if we do look like we're nuts. All right, gotta go. Much love. It will get better from here. Know that.